So in any natural disaster, getting information as fast as possible is key. The tsunami alert for the West Coast this week was issued at 1:30 in the morning local time. That's when most people are asleep. So there were officials going door to door, text alerts and phone calls. So to talk more about how these important messages get out, we're joined by Chris Duffy. He's the Executive Director of Operations for Emergency Management BC, and he joins us from Kamloops early this morning your time. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
So yesterday we all had the question, if a disaster comes and you need to let me know about it and it's the middle of the night, how will I find out? How will you notify me?
Well, there are a suite of alerting tools that take effect and are implemented to engage the public and make them aware of the risks and threats that face them. And so we have, as many people know, a broadcast intrusive system, Alert Ready, that's available nationally. And here in British Columbia, we have a provincial emergency notification system that advises the media, local authorities, and first responders via phone, email, and as well even things like fax for communities that are in remote rural areas.
When we were looking at, now again, this was about a weapons alert, but when we saw the false alarm for the missile alert, people were getting messages via text or on their mobile devices, or there were notifications or alarms that went off. Do we have that here in Canada?
We're heading in that direction. So good question. You may be aware the CRTC announced that the alerting processes will include wireless public alerting in April of this year. So we'll see that text and cell broadcasting type technology available in Canada this year. And we're pretty excited about it.
In yesterday's scenario, I understand that, as you said, emergency responders are notified by phone. But then how do they let people living in a danger zone know about what's happening, especially in the middle of the night?
So each local authority or community has their own emergency management plan, and there's no one size fits all. It's not cookie cutter. What works in Souk, British Columbia might not work in Nanaimo, British Columbia. So some communities have sirens, some have their own alerting technologies, and they'll implement and use those tools. Some will use their first responders and even go door to door or use loudspeakers.
With this new wireless technology that's coming in April of this year, I understand, do you have to download an app to receive it, or will it automatically come to your phone?
My understanding is that will be an automatic or a push type technology, and so you wouldn't have to apply to that.
Yeah, because that was part of the criticism of what happened in Fort McMurray with the wildfires. There was a way to do wireless alerts, but you had to have the app. And if you didn't have the app, you weren't getting the alert. What about for people in campgrounds or areas where there may not be wireless service, or where police or first responders can't get to them? How would they be notified?
Great question. And further in British Columbia, which has huge geography and quite a bit of land base, you think of remote fishing camps and logging camps along the exposed coast. So they have access to things like weather radio, which Environment Canada has developed to push information, and also the use of sat phone technologies. And folks like that would fall within an emergency plan where there would actually be a plan to contact those remote areas, whether that was by a designated first responder, a call to a satellite phone, or something to that effect.
With this wireless technology that's coming out, Chris, will it be, will my screen light up red? Will it have an audio sound to go with it? And what kind of information are you hoping to send out?
I'm not an expert on that technology yet, and my understanding is that it will make an audible tone, and it will push that information. And I understand that they could even have the ability to turn a phone on and then have some audible tone, and then that would hook up with our systems and push that text information.
Back in 2012, there was some criticism about how an emergency response warning went out in BC. Improvements have been made since that time. In your opinion, what else can we do to improve the system in BC? Some criticisms came yesterday, too, about, not enough people knew within an immediate amount of time.
Right. There will always be criticism, and there's no silver bullet. We're not going to have a button that we can push that wakes up 4.2 million people perfectly and apprises them of an emergency event. But your point about our evolutionary process and commitment to continuing to evolve in emergency management, not just here in BC, but across Canada, is key. When we have these events, we analyze them, we have that debrief and after action review process, and have those learnings and share those learnings so that we can continue to evolve and adapt and use these technologies that we're talking about this morning.
What did you guys learn from yesterday?
I think that to your point, we've made some definite strides forward since 2012, and some of that is through procedures and protocols, some of that's through technology, and very interesting for me to have quite a number of senior staff here in Kamloops on a conference on, interestingly enough, the after-action review process from the 2017 fire season, and yet we still activated our Provincial Emergency Coordination Centre, 5 regional operations centers across the province, and really happy to see a number of exposed coastal communities activate their emergency plans and get that information out to people.
Chris,
Was
thanks.
it perfect? No.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
You're very welcome, Anne-Marie.